Yeah, so it's great to have a completely different scene here. So from crypto guys who talking languages, many of us probably find it hard to understand. And I hope that from that presentation and the previous panel, our panel here also knew a bit more about the blockchain. So here, I think, very honored to have James and Ding, which are two great friends of mine. And James is Hotelier of the Year 2016, veteran of the travel industry, hotel industry, previously also with YTL, Rosewood, Ritz Carlton. I'm very happy to have Peter, which is the general manager of Ritz Carlton Singapore, and Lynda, which run a very successful PR agency focusing on producing PR and marketing for the boutique and luxury hotel industry. And Siew is a very famous in Singapore, key opinion leader, founder of Web in Travel, and also editor-in-chief of Web in Travel. Ding is the only one who's not in the travel industry, but I put him here because Ding now is the managing director of Ledger Capital, which is a crypto investment fund, but he came from traditional venture capital background. So Ding was the director at Warburg Pincus for many years, and also at Morgan Stanley, NEA before that. So he also is with James, also one of the angel investors in Xanadu before, and Ding has actually invested in many successful traditional company you'll see across different industry. Right, so without further ado, I think let's start with the first question. And how do you think in the past 10 years technology has changed travel industry?
I think I need to start with Zan calling me about 6 months ago. I was in New York, it was very early in the morning, and Zan said, I'm starting a new company. It's called Atlas. I said, great, Zan. Zan called me 7 years before, said he was starting a new company called Xanadu. And I said, what's that? And he said, well, that's to open up the Chinese market. We've got 20 million travelers that'll be going, and everyone wants Chinese business. Should be really easy to start. I said, that's very easy. Now tell me about this one. Well, it's blockchain. I said, what? All I knew that I'd bought a few coins at that point, and it was in the middle of chaos. And he then sent me the white paper, which was very, very difficult to decipher. I'm still deciphering it, but this earlier panel helped tremendously. And I think he's onto something pretty extraordinary, but we'll get to that now, and it's a pleasure to be here. You're a very, very smart young man. Not so young anymore. And you're going to do extraordinary things. But if I look at the technology business and just the influence of technology over the last 10 to 15 years, I'll just put a few anecdotes. I opened the Ritz-Carlton Kuala Lumpur in 1997 with YTL, and nobody knew how to work their computer back then. So no one, when people were traveling, they tried to plug in their computer, would never work. And there was always someone who could fix the computer. And you had to find that person, and it could be a dishwasher, it could be a chef. And we coined the phrase, the technology butler, in 1997. So if you look at the advent of technology in our business, that's where it started. And the technology butler and that hotel actually was a chef. So he had a beeper that was technology back then. So when there was a problem, the beeper went off, the chef came to fix your computer. And if you look at the speed that it evolved from that point, I think that there is no greater influence in the business from a technology perspective, whether it be through the GDS formation, through bookings, through everything that has changed the whole dynamic to what Marriott is just starting, where you'll have an Alexa in your room today, where you'll call housekeeping, order room service, and do all that through Alexa. So the changes are phenomenal. I think everyone has had to adapt, and they're going to continue at warp speed from opening your room, from apps and everything else, that the natural protection of data and everything that was discussed on the panel before is going to become an essential part of growing this business and staying current. And I think there's no way to go but in that direction.
Thank you, James. I don't know how far back you want to go, but for me, when I look at it, I mean, what an incredible evolution it would have been when you saw the cart and horse to all of a sudden the first automobile. Automobiles are still around, but that was a huge evolution. I don't know how many of you remember, but when I first joined this industry in '83, I was still giving out keys at reception. Big hangers on them, big steel balls, and there's the key. So the next big evolution really for me was watching it go digital and get all the Ving cards and things that open up the rooms. And obviously since then, and you imagine prior to internet, you couldn't make a reservation really to any hotel, right? No emails, nothing. You had to know somebody who knew a hotel or where it even existed. It was really, really difficult. So we've come a long way in reservations, but nothing really, I think, breakthrough yet. I'm waiting for you tech guys that were just up here. Because we are inhibited currently with these old archaic property management systems, which do not allow us to utilize the current technology out there. I cannot wait for that QR codes or my phone where I can just go in and pay right away. I can see the room where I'm going to stay, and I just bypass the reception and I can just open up the room. And that technology actually exists today, but it's not used by any of the big chains because we're inhibited by all this old systems. I ran into Tim Cook, you know him from Apple, and had lunch with him a few years back, and I begged him to please, can you imagine what this would have been in our industry in hotels? Imagine how many hotels in the world there are. And I said, Tim, why don't you guys develop a property management system? And Apple had ever developed a property management system, or Microsoft, we'd be in a whole different era right now. So I'm waiting for you tech guys to get up there so we can come up to speed. This blockchain really fascinates me. But the things where things do annoy me a little bit on the technology side, I used to love to be able to just go and buy a seat on the plane and say, that's the seat I want, and they show the availability. Now, oh my God, I am absolutely, yielded to death. Oh, if you want that seat, it's another $10. You want that meal, it's $5. Oh, you want another 5 pounds. And so, next thing you know, you're paying $200 more for a $99 so-forth seat because technology has enabled us to rape the customer, right? So I don't like that much. I like sometimes going back to simplicity. The other thing is, soon there's going to be all the facial recognition, but how much interference do you want? So already hotels have facial recognition, all the CCTV cameras. And the good side of it is we're going to be able to tell you, oh, good morning, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Smith, because we're going to have this little sound that goes off, and you're walking down the corridor, beep, it goes off. The other thing is, where's that data go? It goes somewhere, right? It could possibly go somewhere. The evolution is, of right now, I think in the next 5 years, is going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's ready to break, I think, into very exciting times.
Thanks. I totally agree with you on all the archaic systems out there in the hotel industry. Before I set up my PR company, I worked in-house for various different hotel groups. And one role I had, I was head of CRM for a hotel group, which was a nightmare because there's so many different systems. So if you think when you make a hotel booking, you might do it online, so that comes through one portal. A travel agency will book it through another portal. You could book through a third-party booking engine, that's another channel. Then you've got your property management system that you were talking about. So as an in-house hotelier, you've got all these different channels where people are inputting information. Then you've got your staff on the ground, your reservations team, that you're relying on them to put proper information into the system. So the goal is to have one single customer view in the hotel industry, where not only do you have all the guest preferences, but how are they booking their stay? Do they interact on social media? All these different things. And it's become a nightmare over the last few years. And I think it's, like you were saying, it's super exciting at the prospect of having this one single customer view where everything is held there. And I think, as James is... has Nihi, the #1 hotel in the world right now, and their #1 goal is to provide this amazing bespoke experiential hotel experience, and that's the way the travel industry is going. Everyone wants bespoke and curated, and having this amazing data and information at your fingertips is what everyone's looking for and dying for in the hotel industry. So yeah, I can completely empathize with this, and I think it's super exciting of the possibilities that are out there.
So I come from the background of a travel journalist, and I started Web and Travel in 2005. At that time, the online travel market was about 10% of the overall travel market. That means travel that was booked online was just 10%. So I guess in the last 13 years, we are now at about 30%, and it's predicted that by 2020, it will go up to 45%, APAC, which means that the online travel sector is growing faster than the traditional travel sector. Now, what's driving the growth is completely mobile, right? So mobile has completely fragmented the customer journey. Like all of us now have the mobile in our pocket. So China is leading the growth, right? Mobile is now 70% of the online travel market in China. So we're seeing this, this technology it's not just technology, it's changing customer behavior, it's changing the way we search for travel. So so the e-commerce pie, the online travel market has completely exploded, right? At the same time, a lot of startups are coming into the picture, like yours, Xanadu, and there are a few blockchain startups now coming into the market too. And it's never been, we've just finished our event in Japan, we had about 550 delegates, and there's never been a better time to do a startup in the travel space, but in the B2B sector, to solve the pain points of travel. So in the B2B, AI, chatbots, blockchain still, I think for blockchain there'll be a lot of buzz before there's boom, right? And the ones that can stay in and have the deep pockets and basically go the distance will be the ones that come out at the end. Just like social in the past. So I think it's phenomenal. It's a combination of technology, customer behavior, and let's not forget low-cost airlines that has completely, again, changed the way people travel. And the biggest trend right now in airlines is there's been a 900% rise in capacity in the low-cost long-haul sector in the last 10 years. So that you and I can now go to Athens for the weekend. We never thought of that, right? But it's changed our customer behavior. So it's a combination of tech customer behavior.
So before I was a blockchain, entrepreneur, I was a private equity venture capital investor for more than 10 years. And travel is a space that I follow, and try to make investments in. I work for Warburg Pincus, so we always look for that billion-dollar outcome, right? So what's a billion-dollar outcome in travel? There are probably, in the last 10 years, there are probably two areas where that come from. So one is sort of the scalable, standardized product provider. That could be a hotel chain, it could be a low-cost airline that utilize technology to jumpstart and increase their efficiency. We invest in a company called 7 Days In, which is a low-cost economy hotel in China. And that obviously it was on the back of the rise of hotel stays in China, but also from the get-go they built their own PMS system, and they built a very modern CRM system and their own booking engine that try to combat the OTAs. So so that's one area, the low-cost airline. So that's one area, but I think that area doesn't address one problem, which is travel is a very personalized business. I think mostly scalable actual travel providers, they provide very standardized service. By nature, they're either scalable or personalized. But travel is a consumption that's, the more money you have, the more personalized kind of travel product you want. So the other area that we've seen even bigger outcomes coming out of in the travel space is the general online marketplace. That's OTAs included, Airbnb included. Airbnb is bigger than the biggest hotel chain in the world now. I mean, those are sort of those are marketplaces that utilize data, the online usage of internet, and connection of more sort of long tail, sometimes more long tail inventories, and created these massive marketplaces. But the problem with that is it's a naturally monopolistic business. Zan has shown that the growth rate of the biggest OTAs have grown faster than the travel industry. I invested in Zan 7 years ago. There was a thesis was that personalized travel will become the norm in China. It will become how people want to spend their money on travel, not just in a Hilton, but also in a Nihi, for example. But the reality is, OTAs, the way OTAs has grown and have monopolized the market, they have taken that juice away from the market. They have discouraged more personalized products to be produced and to be discovered, and for more personalized content to be created to drive the consumption of that really
Yeah, but OTAs are really, I mean, the whole travel pie is so huge. I mean, I do agree with the OTAs monopolizing the online travel market, but actually the travel pie is so huge that the traditional sector is still much bigger than what the OTA commands right now.
I totally agree. I totally agree. So that comes to kind of from the equity investment perspective, so if I didn't invest in an OTA, I didn't invest in a standardized provider of, airline or hotel, what do I invest in? Is there a personalized marketplace I can invest in? It's been very hard. I think in the last 7 years, in China, which naturally has a very high growth market, you haven't seen a single internet travel company that's crossed the valuation of, say, $500 million.
Traveloka has.
In
From
China.
Indonesia.
Sorry, in China.
Okay.
But exactly, so Traveloka is an OTA. So Traveloka is like Ctrip. So my point is, other than the monopolistic OTA, you're not going to have another one. So in China, you have Ctrip, you have Qunar, which merged into Ctrip, and the other guys all died. And Southeast Asia, you have Traveloka now. I'm very familiar with the founders. They are repeating the Ctrip story. So let's see who can be that better experience OTA that combat Traveloka. It's going to be very hard. That's why the money is pouring into travel. So I think, going back to blockchain, I think there's a way to create an alternative solution to what people are really looking for. Both providers and consumers are looking for in the travel space. We don't want to be hijacked by OTAs, which is, again, naturally a monopolistic business.
Okay, great. Okay, second question is, I'm just very curious, right? So blockchain is a buzz term, but hotel and travel is still predominantly a very traditional business. I'm just saying, before you actually came to this kind of meetup, or after this meetup, with your limited understanding of the business, and after the explanation of what Altas is trying to do, etc., what's your initial reaction to it? And for the hotel ecosystem partner, what do you think of it?
I think, as you rightly say, knowledge on blockchain was virtually zero over the last 90 days. I certainly have learned a great deal because of reading your work and understanding it better, and just delving and investigating. But I think the most interesting part, when you put it in simplistic terms, because simplicity is just a lot easier to understand in any business, of the creation of data of TripAdvisor, where essentially the user is getting nothing back other than the platform to gain information. Their data usage gets bigger and bigger. Yes, you have it to go back to, but there is no reward system. That makes perfect sense. That if there was a platform that could be used, that you can benefit from, whether you get a token or 5% back and everything in you creating, it's logical. I think the other natural part is, as technology is just such a huge, the biggest component in any transaction is cybersecurity and safety. And everything will get hacked. It's going to happen. And blockchain appears to be is the only way forward to avoid that. So that's, again, is using logic and common sense, that it has to integrate into the business. But these businesses are so huge that making those changes, and I just think that the negative perception, and I don't understand truly the integration between blockchain and currency and how they all combine together, that the positive and negative that has come through cryptocurrency trading, through people making a lot of money, losing a lot of money, has almost set it back, because it is just perceived to be, from whether, Jamie Dimon saying that he will never ever invest a cent in crypto or blockchain. And so you're fighting these many different factions. But I think the key fundamental of it all is that it is the only technology that is safe. And naturally, through education, it's going to get better. and through people who know what they are doing, who've got a track record as you do, Zan, who are starting something and integrating a platform that makes complete sense and selling it in simple common sense terms, I think that the opportunities could be endless.
So not your 90 days, mine's been about 10 hours. I'm a dreamer, so I keep dreaming about perfection.
Jail. He had a block and a chain.
This is true. Well, that's another story, James. We won't talk about that yet. Too many cameras. So I always dream about perfection or think. So for me, like Lynda was saying, for me, it's bespoke experiences. For me, luxury is where I can actually book a complicated, I love adventure. So if I can book a variety of different services and pool them somehow, or blockchain can pool them somehow all together, that I can maybe do an Apple Pay or, I don't know, Bitcoin or however it's done, where I can get online and seamlessly create myself 5 minutes. I can book everything I wanted to do. From a car, from how to get there, from all my adventures, the accommodation, the flights. It kind of exists today in bits and pieces. And sometimes living in Singapore with a Singapore credit card, I can't purchase things in the States. They won't accept it, or this and that, and it doesn't go through. And it's so frustrating. Then I can only get a third of the trip done, but the other third won't go through, and they want other different terms. So from my understanding a little bit today, blockchain could potentially break through all those barriers and give us a whole new experience. So I'm excited. I don't know how to be a part of it, but I'm excited.
What was the question again? I'm already lost.
You're serious? Oh, no. No, I'm just asking. Blockchain is a relative new idea. You could probably came here without much idea what it is. After the introduction crash course, what's your initial reaction to it? In terms of what do you see the kind of travel industry needs in terms of marketing needs, data, content, etc. How does it make sense to you? I guess.
Yeah, I think as I was just building on what I was saying before in terms of, I think there's a couple of ways to look at it, both on the consumer side and in-house on the hotel side, and how it can impact everyone really. As we were saying before, the hotel industry is a bit archaic with all these systems, but I think to have a true competitive advantage and use all this amazing data to provide the best travel experience, or on the consumer side, I think it will be a great competitive advantage to some of the bigger hotel chains, basically, who can embrace it the first and get their consumers involved. But as you were saying before, I think it's crucial that blockchain is explained, especially in the travel industry, in a really simplistic way and engaging way, and get everyone on board, so both the consumer and the business side are all on board.
I think with every new technology, it will take time for the industry to adopt it, right? But given the massive disruption that the travel industry has seen in the last 10 years, the degree of open-mindedness to technology right now is so wide open, especially in Asia. So we're seeing a lot of startups in Europe and the US actually coming to Asia, because suppliers now have a much more open mindset, because they've seen the massive disruption in Asia more than in Europe and the USA. So firstly, the minds are very, very open. Secondly, I think blockchain, if it lives up to that utopia of a decentralized economy where everyone benefits, including the content creators in Asia, it has the potential to solve the very fragmented travel market, right? The hotel industry in Asia is like 90% of it is independent owner, single operated. They're not the chains like you guys, so it's 90% fragmented, right? And then there's another blockchain startup that's trying to do tours and activities. That is the biggest segment now, where Booking Holdings and all that are putting money in. They're putting a lot of money into the tours and activity sector. So there's a startup now doing blockchain, using the same story like you're saying, incentivize the content creators. So I think blockchain has the potential to scale the unscalable in travel and to solve that fragmentation problem. So I think people are really excited about it, and so there's an open-mindedness definitely to it, yeah. My concern for you is you've just said that Expedia and Booking Holdings spent $7 billion on Google to build a brand. So the biggest challenge in travel right now is building a consumer brand. How are you going to build a consumer brand? How much money have you got to build a consumer brand when Booking and all that are just spending billions? So that is the biggest challenge, I think.
I'll just add that. Actually, maybe I'll ask for a show of hands. Who knows how much Bitcoin has moved today? Who in this room knows? So it's down 6% today, and it's pretty. It's probably one of the biggest downs like in the last month or two. But that's the nature of cryptocurrency today, and it's it's very, very volatile. It's just one of many hindrances to real world adoption of blockchain, because blockchains are sort of the economy, or any blockchain project's economy is represented in the form of token, which is fungible with other cryptocurrencies, and it's naturally subject to these fluctuations. But on the other hand, I think of this, any real world adoption of blockchain today as the adoption of internet in 1994. So we're probably some ways away from actual mainstream adoption, and we're longer ways away from monetization. There's going to be some booms and busts in the middle. There's going to be some bubbles. People are going to make money, in the middle, whatever. From 1994 to 1999, people made money. But there's also going to be some survivors. Amazon has actually started in 1994. So this is going back to to travel. I think there are a lot of things that are tailwinds here. One of them you just mentioned are especially in this parts of the world, just like how 7 days in we're able to build an IT-enabled hotel chain from the get-go, is because they had no baggage. It's not like Super 8. They had no baggage. But and that in the same way, in Asia, travel providers have relatively less baggage. I think that's one thing that's going for them. And the other thing is that I think what's really one dynamic that's happening in travel, back to what I was saying about consumers want more personalized experience, whether it's expensive or cheap, personalized experience, how to discover them, and how to for providers, how to provide them, how to do the transactions, how to make sure the service is right. I think these are all sort of transaction flows and information flows that current monopolistic marketplaces don't really serve well. So I think travel is a particularly great opportunity to connect a fragmented base of providers and consumers and needs and content providers with token economy.
Can we ask the audience, how many of you are interested in doing a startup in the travel industry? Just out of curiosity. I have quite a few hands.
I'm going to sound like a complete idiot, but anyway. Can you, I don't know who to ask, maybe I'll ask you. Can you have a blockchain without a coin? Right, so is blockchain moving much faster in normal terms without a coin attached to it?
Yeah, definitely you can. And I was just having a meeting with the director of EDB today, and they were saying that Singapore government are already using blockchain in the way that treat data for transportation data and also interbank kind of financial work. So this is more like a closed loop utilization application of the blockchain technology. That is immutability, low transaction, security, immutability, etc. But
Just from perception is that whenever you hear blockchain, you think it's a coin, but the technology is actually very separate.
Yeah.
And I think being able to market that information, to get that in people's brains, it will change a lot, because they unfortunately have just merged together too closely.
I think there's nothing wrong with a tokenized economy. I think that is an open and sort of blockchain application that's gonna be much bigger. I think the problem with that is a lot of really shitty projects and bad apples are dragging down the name of that. It's being used by a lot of projects as almost an illegal fundraising or illegal kind of crowdsourcing kind of way. And I think the problem is not itself, is what happened really in the last year by some of those projects. So what we really need is to really have legitimate projects and to can really bring in real world application to it. And I think that tokenized economy, the open token, is important to be there to really release the restructuring of the economy, to really change it from a fundamentally different way of a profit maximizing platform model, you know, maximizing shareholder value, to another model that is completely different. Yeah. And the other one, just to wrap it up, to answer your question, I think whatever business is a business, whether it's a blockchain business, or whether it's a crypto business, or whether it's a traditional business. A business is a case where you need to build organization. You need to be able to acquire user. You need to be able to acquire vendors. You need to be able to build ecosystem. You need to be able to build branding and use not so much money to build branding. I think just like any other business, the challenge is the same. I think what blockchain is in this window of opportunity, which maybe will take a long road to get to the end of the tunnel. I think is the open data potential for serious player. I think right now you're seeing really at a junction where you start to seeing a new wave. I think Atlas is part of this new wave of legitimate player coming from traditional VC-backed business, moving into the crypto space, and really try to use that technology and possibility to do real things. And I think the jury is still out, how long and how difficult the journey is. But I think that we have made that decision, and we're here to begin that journey today. Thank you very much.
I am confident that the success story in blockchain and travel is going to come from Asia and not elsewhere. So, good luck to you.
Okay, right, guys, take a photo.